Football clubs make signings in summer as the transfer window opens. Fresh blood is what may help a club to raise the bar. But sometimes they make terribly wrong decisions and sign players they don't really need for big money. As a result, players fail and clubs have to puzzle over how to get rid of them. It's not always about footballers. There's too much to get used to. A new country with a new language, as well as new culture, a new league, a new play style. All that may be a challenge. Today we will tell you about the worst transfer campaigns of recent years. But before we get into it, our usual quiz for you. Whose playing career is this? Udinese, Barcelona, Arsenal, Man United, Inter. Feel free to guess and write your answer in the comments. And now we begin. Tottenham Summer 2013. 122,530,000 euros spent. Signed Roberto Soldado, Valencia, 30 million euros. Eric Lamela, Roma, 30 million euros. Paulinho, Corinthians, 19.73 million euros. Christian Eriksen, Ajax, 14.15 million euros. Etienne Capoue, Toulouse, 11 million euros. Vlad Chiriches, Steaua, Bucharest, 9.5 million euros. Nasser Chadli, Twente, 8.15 million euros. Tottenham was to be completely rebuilt in summer 2013. It was the second season in charge for the Portuguese manager André Villas-Boas after the team finished 5th and reached the FA Cup semi-final in the 2012-13 season. Gareth Bale was the one to make the biggest impact with his incredible performance, worthy of the Premier League Player of the Year award. As a result, the Welshman left for Real Madrid for a huge fee of 101 million euros, and Tottenham had to spend that money wisely. 22 million were added to that, as the club was about to make the most of the transfer window. One of the best La Liga strikers, Roberto Soldado, was signed from Valencia for 30 million euros. 5 new midfielders were also signed: Eric Lamela for 30 million, Christian Eriksen for 14.15, Etienne Capoue for 11, and Nasser Chadli cost the club 8.15 million. Vlad Chiriches was signed from the Romanian club Steaua for 9.5 million euros to strengthen Tottenham's defense. Now we can say that only one of all those players was good enough, and even more. Christian Eriksen scored 7 goals and made 8 assists in 25 games in his first season for Tottenham, and later became a world-class midfielder. Eric Lamela wasn't that bad, but way more was expected from such a promising player back then, so after 8 years he joined Sevilla in 2021. His Rabona goals against Astras in the Europa League and against Arsenal last year were very impressive, we must admit. But now for the others. Roberto Soldado turned out to be a huge disappointment. Only 6 goals that season, 4 of which were penalties. After 2 unsuccessful seasons, he was back to Spain as he joined Villarreal. Etienne Capoue's story was pretty much the same: 24 games in 2 seasons and then a move to Watford. Same for Paulinho. Signed as a rising star, the Brazilian didn't make it in the Premier League and left for Guangzhou, the Chinese team, in 2015. Nasser Chadli spent a bit more time at Tottenham, 3 seasons for the Spurs, 15 goals and 11 assists in 88 Premier League games. After that, the Belgian joined West Bromwich in 2016, so that season was a bit of a mess for Tottenham. André Villas-Boas was sacked in December, and after Team Sherwood took over, things went better. 6th place is what the Spurs achieved in that season. After it was over, a new manager came, Mauricio Pochettino, the one to actually rebuild Tottenham. AC Milan, Summer 2017, 193.5 million euros spent. Signed Leonardo Bonucci, Juventus, 42 million euros. Andre Silva, Porto, 38 million euros. Andrea Conti, Atalanta, 24 million euros. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Bayer, 23.3 million euros. Lucas Biglia, Lazio, 19.7 million euros. Matteo Musacchio, Villarreal, 18 million euros. Ricardo Rodriguez, Wolfsburg, 15 million euros. Franck Kessié, loaned from Atalanta for 8 million euros. Nicola Kalinic, loaned from Fiorentina, 5 million euros. Fabio Borini, loaned from Sunderland for 500,000 euros. In April 2017, Milan was officially sold to the Chinese investors Li Yonghong's company, Rossoneri Sport Investment Lux. The manager for Milan in the 2016-17 season was Roberto Montella, whose first season in charge brought the club the Italian Super Cup. the first trophy in 5 years. That's why the Italian had the new owner's trust and was given a very solid transfer budget. One of the biggest signings was Leonardo Bonucci, worth 42 million euros. The centre-back fell out with the Juventus manager Massimiliano Allegri and forced the move. Many clubs were interested, but Leonardo wanted to stay in Italy and joined Milan. But for Milan, it was just the beginning. More signings were made. Andre Silva from Porto for 38 million euros. Andrea Conti from Atalanta for 24 million. Hakan Çalhanoğlu from Bayer for 23.3 million. Musacchio from Villarreal for 18 million. And Ricardo Rodriguez from Wolfsburg. There were also Franck Kessié from Atalanta, Nikola Kalinic from Fiorentina and Fabio Borini from Sunderland. These players joined Milan on loan. But Milan only managed to finish 6th, just like the season before. Definitely not what the bosses expected after 193.5 million euros had been spent. Of all the new signings, only 2 footballers made it work. Hakan Çalhanoğlu played 135 matches for Rossoneri, scored 21 goals and made 34 assists. The way he left the club was not really a pleasant one though. His contract expired and he joined Inter. In autumn 2021, he scored against his old club and celebrated the goal in a disrespectful way. The Milan fans found this gesture infuriating. Another one is Franck Kessié. The Ivorian's solid loan spell made Milan buy him for 24 million euros, and he is still a key player for the team. The others weren't the right fit for Milan. Musacchio hardly ever started games and left for Lazio after 3 years at the club. Lucas Biglia was decent in his first season for Milan, but then his form dropped. In 2020 he was sold to the Turkish club Fatih Karagümrük, the team he still plays for. As for Ricardo Rodriguez, the Swiss was a first-choice player for Milan for 2 years, but then Theo Hernandez was signed and made Ricardo leave for PSV. Andrea Conti, another one who found no success in Milan, was loaned out to Parma in the 2020-21 season. Nothing really came from that. He returned to Milan and now the club is planning to get rid of him. The worst signing, however, turned out to be the most noticeable one. Leonardo Bonucci was simply awful and was sold back to Juventus. Andre Silva, the striker, scored only 1 goal in 24 Serie A games and was sold as well. Another 2 attackers, Borini and Kalinic, failed to impress and got back to their clubs when the loan spell was over. Manchester United, summer 2014, 193,600,000 euros spent. Signed Ángel Di María, Real Madrid, 75 million euros. Luke Shaw, Southampton, 37.5 million euros. Ander Herrera, Athletic Bilbao, 36 million euros. Marcos Rojo, Sporting Lisbon, 20 million euros. Daley Blind, Ajax, 17.5 million euros. Falcao, loaned from Milan, 7,600,000 euros. The 2013-14 season may be called the beginning of the end for Manchester United. The glorious Ferguson era was over as Sir Alex resigned and another Scotsman, David Moyes, took over. That season was the worst United had in decades. 7th place in the Premier League table left the board no choice but to sack Moyes. After that, Louis van Gaal was appointed, an experienced manager who had some major trophies under his belt. He got full backing from the Manchester United bosses and had signings to make. 193,600,000 euros in total were spent on new players. The biggest signing was Ángel Di María, bought from Real Madrid for 75 million euros. Luke Shaw, who was only 19, was signed for 37.5 million from Southampton. Ander Herrera from Athletic Bilbao cost Man United 36 million. Another 2 players were signed mainly because of their World Cup performance. Marcos Rojo from Sporting Lisbon, who cost the club 20 million, and Daley Blind from Ajax, well known to Van Gaal, joined United for 17.5 million. There was also one deadline day loan signing, Radamel Falcao from Monaco, which was quite a surprise. You might have thought such a transfer campaign could have let United compete for the Premier League title, but no. 4th place, 17 points behind the triumphant Chelsea was what actually happened. That had a lot to do with the newcomer's poor performance. After a pretty good start, 2 goals and 2 assists in his first 3 games, Ángel Di María lost the momentum completely. His conflict with Van Gaal made him leave for PSG. The Argentine didn't fit the Dutchman's philosophy at all. Luke Shaw and Ander Herrera weren't that bad, but didn't impress either. It took Shaw 4 seasons to become the Luke Shaw we know. Herrera, in his turn, was consistent but still not good enough. In 2019, the Spaniard joined PSG as a free agent. Marcos Rojo didn't make it in the first squad and went back to Estudiantes, his first club, and then to Boca Juniors. It was almost the same for Daley Blind. The Dutchman left Man United in 2018 to make a return to Ajax. Radamel Falcao was also a big disappointment. 4 goals and 5 assists in 26 Premier League games was not enough for United to consider buying the Colombian striker. Later he went on another loan to Chelsea and found no luck in London either. Barcelona, Summer 2017. 222,700,000 euros spent. Signed Ousmane Dembélé, Borussia Dortmund, 135 million euros. Paulinho, Guangzhou, 40 million euros. Nelson Semedo, Benfica, 35,700,000 euros. Gerard Deulofeu, Everton, 12 million euros. There was a hell of a transfer window for Barcelona in summer 2017. The rumor about Neymar moving to PSG had been there since spring. The Brazilian was too unhappy and wanted to leave. He did eventually, and brought the Blaugrana 222 million euros. The new manager, Ernesto Valverde, who took over Barca as Luis Enrique left the club, had to put that hefty sum to use. The one to try to replace Neymar was the Frenchman Ousmane Dembélé, who came from Borussia Dortmund for 135 million euros. The Brazilian Paulinho made his return to Europe from China, as he moved to Barca from Guangzhou for 40 million. The club was also eager to find a replacement for Dani Alves, so Nelson Semedo from Benfica was signed for 37.5 million. Another one to join the club was Gerard Deulofeu. A La Masia graduate came from Everton for 12 million euros. We must not forget about another big signing. Felipe Coutinho from Liverpool joined Barca in winter for 135 million euros. Still, all these signings didn't help Barca to put on a decent performance in the Champions League. After they had beaten Chelsea in the round of 16, they managed to squander a 3-goal lead they acquired after the first quarter-final match against Roma. 3-0 was the scoreline of that embarrassing game. So as a result, Barca managed to win La Liga and Copa del Rey, but found no luck in Europe. As for the new players, none of them met the expectations. Ousmane Dembélé is still to find himself at the new club, but his injuries, as well as his poor attitude, are holding him back. By the end of 2021, the Frenchman had played 83 games in La Liga, scored 18 goals and made 15 assists. Coutinho is another player who lost his former brilliance completely. The Brazilian stats are even worse, 17 goals and 9 assists for Barca. Now for the rest of them. Paulinho was pretty decent during that season, scored 9 goals in 34 La Liga games, but something made him leave the club and go back to Guangzhou after the World Cup 2018. Semedo, the right back, was too inconsistent and left for Wolverhampton in 2020. But what really makes us question the Barca transfer policy is Deulofeu. In winter, soon after he joined Barca, he was loaned out to Watford to later join the English club on a permanent basis. Chelsea, summer 2017, 203,900,000 euros spent. Signed Alvaro Morata, Real Madrid, 66 million euros. Tiemoué Bakayoko, Monaco, 40 million euros. Danny Drinkwater, Leicester, 37.9 million euros. Antonio Rudiger, Roma, 35 million euros. Davide Zappacosta, Torino, 25 million euros. That was a transfer window to remember for Chelsea. Not in a good way though, but for some mistakes that were made and are still to be corrected. The season before, the Italian manager Antonio Conte had brought the Blues the Premier League title, so the club was to be back to the Champions League. And that is why Chelsea was eager to spend as much money as they could. 2 crucial players left the club that summer. Nemanja Matic followed Jose Mourinho and joined Manchester United, and Diego Costa, the top scorer, made his return to Atletico Madrid. John Terry, a long-time leader and captain, left the club as well to join Aston Villa as a free agent. Antonio Rudiger, signed from Roma for 35 million euros, was meant to replace him. The one to replace Costa was Alvaro Morata from Real Madrid, who cost Chelsea 66 million. The new midfielders were Danny Drinkwater, signed from Leicester for 37.9 million, and Tiemoué Bakayoko from Monaco, worth 40 million. The right back Davide Zappacosta was also signed from Torino, but the only one to feed the club was Antonio Rudiger. It took him quite a time to find his best football though. It was Thomas Tuchel to help him. As for all the others, the biggest of all disappointments was surely Alvaro Morata. He had a promising start as he scored against Everton and Leicester and scored a hat-trick against Stoke. But then, his awful finishing made Chelsea fans curse him as they had to witness one miss after another. That did his confidence no good, so after a season and a half the Spaniard left for Atletico Madrid. Another one to have a decent start was Timo Bakayoko. His partnership with another Frenchman, N'Golo Kanté, looked fairly good, but not for long. By winter his performance levels dropped, his passing was awful just like his pace. The midfielder was not fit for the Premier League. Still a Chelsea player on the paper, Bakayoko had been loaned down since that very season. Drinkwater and Zappacosta were both no way near the first 11. The Italian right back left the club in summer 2021 as he joined Atalanta, while Drinkwater is still considered a Chelsea player. Now he's out on loan at Reading, the Championship side. That's what has become of him. That season turned out to be a bad one for Chelsea. Though the Blues won the FA Cup, they came 5th in the Premier League, and at the end of the season Antonio Conte was sacked. As the Italian later said, those were not the players he wanted. He got Rudiger instead of Van Dijk and Zappacosta instead of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Real Madrid, summer 2019, 323 million euros spent. Signed Eden Hazard, Chelsea, 115 million euros. Luka Jovic, Eintracht Frankfurt, 63 million euros. Eder Militao, Porto, 50 million euros. Ferland Mendy, Lyon, 48 million euros. Rodrigo Santos, 45 million euros. In summer 2019, Cristiano Ronaldo, the biggest star and the best goalscorer, left Real Madrid. The club decided, however, not to sign any replacements for the Portuguese. The team had won 3 consecutive Champions League titles, and that made Florentino Perez think that the squad was still good enough. The new coach also was appointed. Julen Lopetegui took over Los Blancos after Zinedine Zidane had resigned. That did the club no good. The 2018-19 was a disaster. Real Madrid was unable to win any trophy. The team lost to Ajax in the Champions League round of 16 and finished 3rd in La Liga. A lot of improvements were to be made. So first of all, the president brought Zidane back to the club, and as much as 323 million euros were to be spent. The biggest transfer signing was Eden Hazard from Chelsea for 115 million euros. The Serb Luka Jovic worth 63 million, Eder Militao worth 50 million, Rodrigo worth 45 million, and Ferland Mendy worth 48 million were also signed. Hazard and Jovic seemed the most promising ones, and yet they ended up the biggest disappointments. Hazard spent more time being injured than on the pitch. As for now, he has played 42 La Liga games for Real Madrid, scored 4 goals and made 9 assists. As for Jovic, he was no match for Karim Benzema, 28 matches in La Liga and only 3 goals. The Serb was loaned back to Eintracht, but that didn't help him a bit. The others, Rodrigo, Mendy and Militao, have had a better career for Real Madrid. Though Rodrigo often comes in as a sub, the other two have become first-choice defenders. However, Rodrigo is still young, and the fans still hope to see him shine one day, just like the other young Brazilian, Vinicius. But as for now, 77 games played, 11 goals scored and 13 assists made for Real Madrid. Generally speaking, that was a decent season for the team. Though they lost to Manchester City in the Champions League quarter-final, they managed to win La Liga in the end, 5 points ahead of Barcelona. As a rule, it's either a sporting director or a manager to blame for bad signings, sometimes both. It does no good to new players and to a team when scouts are unable to determine if they really need the player. However, sometimes it is a bad attitude that stops a player from making the most of himself, no matter how good of a fit he is for his new club. Are there any other failed transfer campaigns you remember? Let us know in the comments and let us recall them together. Goodbye.